When I left the back end, there was a position that opened up for management. So I jumped in management, and then from there on, worked with the youth bowlers, the league coordinator for a while, bowling business. You do a little bit of everything, right. Marketing. And then they asked me in 2013 if I would come. They had just bought this location here in Mebane, and they had asked me if I'd be interested in essentially coming on board as the GM here in Mebane.
Okay.
So that was 2013. And then a lot of stuff happened in between. Then we had a pandemic. And then basically December of last year, I took over as proprietor here at Buffaloe Lanes.
Awesome. So thanks again for coming on today, Bryan. I really appreciate you taking up some time of your busy day. For people who have not met you yet, tell us a little bit about who you are and the center you're working with.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me, Forrest. I appreciate it. Currently, I'm with the Buffaloe Lanes, and I say currently, which is funny because I've been with them this will be my 25th year. When I started with Buffaloe Lanes, I guess I was in high school. I was 16, going on 17. I had been doing some side work with my dad in construction, but my mom said, you need to get a job that you could do while you're in school. And bowling wasn't the answer because I love bowling. I had actually never touched a bowling ball before. I remember when I was little, we grew up in Los Angeles. My mom bowled at the Gable House, but I never bowled. I remember playing the pinball machines. I remember being in the daycare with some of the other kids while the other moms were bowling. But it was really just a chance happening. My mom, she worked with someone, her husband was the general manager at Buffaloe Lanes Cary, and they were just getting ready to open, really December of '98. And she said, why don't you go in? It's really close to where you're going to school. It's simple. You're talking to people. And I was actually really shy at the time. So I think my mom was pushing me to do something that maybe would open me up a little bit more. And yeah, I got the job as essentially a front desk help and hosting kids' birthday parties. And then it just exploded from there.
Yeah. And now here you are. You said 25 years later.
Who would ever thought that the first job was going to be probably the last job?
Right. And so you said you started at the front counter and now you're the GM at Buffaloe.
Yeah, I was working the front desk. I remember our general manager at the time, I think, was a little overwhelmed with how many parties we were having booked on the weekends. So he had basically 2 girls hired to host parties, and it was not even close to enough. So I remember him asking me, he said, hey, would you like to work with Lisa for a little bit and she'll show you how to do birthday parties? And I said, sure, why not? And then we basically went 3-4 weekends in. And I remember I asked him, I said, are you looking for someone to do parties? And he said, we're doing such a good job. Why don't you just continue hosting the parties on the weekends? So we did it. So I did the front desk, I did the birthday parties. Then, I don't know, you get hungry to learn more. So I remember working in the snack bar for a while. And back then we had Perky's Pizza and Sully's Subs. So we were making subs and Perky's Pizza. That was fun. Yeah. And he was still working at the front desk at the time. And then somewhere along the line, we needed help in the back. And our head mechanic needed help with some preventive maintenance and just catching calls on the weekend. And I thought, oh, that'd be fun. Let's try that too. Did my little stint for a couple of years as a mechanic. Not really. Let's not say mechanic. Let's say pin chaser. Maybe. Pin chaser. Yeah. Pin chaser. Not mechanic probably is overselling it a little bit.
Sure.
And then when I left the back end, there was a position that opened up for management. So I jumped in management, and then from there on, worked with the youth bowlers, the league coordinator for a while, bowling business. You do a little bit of everything, right. Marketing. And then they asked me in 2013 if I would come. They had just bought this location here in Mebane, and they had asked me if I'd be interested in essentially coming on board as the GM here in Mebane.
Okay.
So that was 2013. And then a lot of stuff happened in between. Then we had a pandemic. And then basically December of last year, I took over as proprietor here at Buffaloe Lanes in Mebane.
Wow. Okay. So you purchased it.
Yeah. That was a goal. That was always a goal.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily a goal coming out of a pandemic before there might be a recession and whatever, but it was something we were working towards. And then when the pandemic hit, the Buffalo brothers were sitting down and they said, it might be a good reset point, might be a good point to get in. And so that's what we worked towards, and it happened in 21. So a couple more great years this year. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. So now they had how many centers before, and you bought obviously one of them.
So in total, they've had 6. So there's still 5
Okay.
locations. There's a
Mhm.
North Raleigh, there's a South Raleigh, which was the original location built back in 78. And then the one where I worked in Cary, they have one in Irwin, North Carolina, this one in Mebane, and they used to have a center in Greensboro, North Carolina. It's now
Okay.
Spare Time Lanes.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. So then here you are. I find that there's 2 different paths I've seen for GMs. You get the one who's hired in from just management experience, maybe a restaurant or a retail or something like that. And then you get the one like you, where you start up from the bottom and you become really well-rounded. And I find that those managers tend to just be rock solid.
I hope so. Yeah. And it was, like I said, it just organically happened. Probably a year and a half, 2 years into working at the center, make some friends, you get off work, you want to do something fun. But a lot of the people I worked with, they were bowlers. So they always wanted to bowl after we got off work. And I thought, oh, bowling's for like old ladies and seniors that are retired. Let's do something fun. Let's go to the mall. Let's go to the movies. So I would go out on the lanes, and thank God there's no video footage. I was horrible, absolutely horrible. And I would just throw the balls. They'd go in the gutter, they'd go left, they'd go wherever they went until whoever was practicing had enough practice and we'd go do something else. But one day, our pro shop operator, we were bowling in front of his pro shop, and probably felt really bad for me. He said, oh, this poor kid, got to give him some pointers. He came out and he said, can I give you some pointers? I said, sure, can't get any worse. It can only get better. And I remember that was the day that I fell in love with the sport, with bowling. So I was probably throwing a 10-pound ball, and he said, let's find a different ball. So we picked up a 15 and went through the typical drill. Where are you standing? Here. Oh, these dots, they mean something. Let's get you standing here on 22. And where are you aiming? Down there, the pins. Okay, here are the arrows. And so he took some time out of his day, lined me up. I threw a ball, I knocked down pins, and I remember thinking, oh, this could be fun.
Yeah.
That's when I fell in love with bowling. And from that point on, I wanted to learn more. So we had a good opportunity where our pro shop operator, he was there early every day before his shop opened. And I usually got out of school. So it was high school. I got out of school early, usually didn't start a shift till 4 or 5. And he said, look, great opportunity. I want to go on the lanes, practice myself. You get free bowling because you work at the bowling center. Let's see how good you can get, essentially. We worked through it. At that point, I wanted to learn more about the pro shop business too. So I worked with him in the pro shop, learning about fitting, drilling, ball surfaces, all that exciting stuff. And I guess you could say I fell in love with the sport first. I got into youth bowling really late because by the time I was bowling and competing, I must have been 18 already.
Oh, so high school.
Yeah. So then I bowled 18, 19, 20, 21, aged out at 21. And probably those were my best years. That was when I was really hungry and I was bowling a lot and I was practicing a lot. And then Irwin, who was my coach at the time, he ran the pro shop. He warned me. He said, just FYI, the better you get in the bowling industry, the worse your bowling is going to get.
Okay.
Which was true.
So you were forewarned.
Then I fell in love with the bowling business. And the more I fell in love with the business, then the bowling the 230 average went to 220, and then maybe it dropped to 210. And we just started our league. I bowl at our Cary locations on Wednesday nights today.
Okay.
And shockingly, I don't know how I pulled out a 697 last week, but I did.
Oh, nice. Yes, so you still got it.
It's not going to be the norm. I know there'll be some 590s and maybe even.
Sure.
We'll take right now. The bowling is now for me more of it just gets me together with friends. It's really just the vessel, the tool to get me together with people that I haven't seen in a while. And I enjoy bowling. I'm not as competitive as I used to be. Can I miss a spare and then just kind of brush it off and not stress about it? Now I can. Before I couldn't.
Well, that probably makes it more fun.
Oh, it does.
Social.
It's absolutely a blast, and we've had fun with it. One year we bowled opposite-handed the entire league. One year we bowled two-handed, and it took the competitiveness out of it, and it just brought us back to the basics. Why we got into bowling to begin with.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about getting together with friends, social, something fun to do.
Absolutely.
That's really what it comes down to. And really the whole industry, family fun, that's what it all comes down to, is getting together with family, friends, giving people some fun.
I think that's why I also like the Buffaloe Lanes version of bowling. All of our centers are alcohol free. Emphasis is on the sport of bowling. So obviously we do the cosmic bowling and the blacklight bowling, and all of our locations have arcades and some form of food and beverage, but really we emphasize the sport of bowling. We want to teach people how to bowl. We want to teach them how to enjoy it more, whether they become a league bowler for life or they just come with their friends or family. We want them to enjoy the sport of bowling. So that's what we've always focused on, and it's done well for the Buffaloe family and for myself for 44 years, going on 45. And that is how I plan on running the business moving forward. Is we will always cater to the open bowlers, but really we're passionate about the sport.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit. There's always that debate of how do you reconcile the two, the open play versus the league. What do you guys do? Is it about what days you schedule it, or how do you blend the two together successfully?
Yeah, it's tough. And honestly, I've already decided in my mind that I will compromise open play to get somebody bowling better. So for example, this summer we did a Learn to Bowl Better, and we had 68 people that signed up for it. And it was much better turnout than what we anticipated. It's an 18-lane center. We're in a small community. It's very growing. It's booming, but it's a small center. And we thought we were getting a lot of feedback from our bowlers. And I think a lot of it was COVID related. Some legacy bowlers that have bowled every season back to back for years and years. Here, they just took a break. COVID, we were closed for 6 months here at our location. Oh, wow. So half a year completely shut down. And then when we reopened, masks on, social distancing. So before we got some of the league bowlers back in the house, it had been a while. And I'd never heard so many people saying, oh, my game, I'm just not feeling it. People that would normally not say, I need help with my bowling game, were saying, I need help with my bowling game. So we sat down and thought, well, let's develop a program. We did a 12-week program. We included some options for some equipment too, because sometimes people are sitting on that ball that was drilled 15 years ago. And sometimes the equipment is part of the fix, right? You have to have modern equipment in your hand to really compete. But we did a Learn to Bowl class, and we opened up all 18 lanes on Thursday evening in the summers. And basically we told ourselves that we were going to put that time and that effort in to teaching people how to bowl better. And that's what we did. It is, you have to yourself look and say, what am I willing to give? What am I willing to get? So some people would have probably looked at that and said, oh man, you gave up your entire Thursday evening. You could have had the lanes full with open play. But again, for me, we had 68 bowlers. They came out of the program more confident about their bowling, getting ready for the fall season. And again, we're about the sport. You can find, you have to really, per center, per location, per demographic, everybody has a little different situation. They might be 40% league play, 60% open play. It's different from center to center. Our league play and tournament play is probably closer in this location here, maybe like 35, 40%. But it's something that we're always going to put time and effort into. So even if I have to, say, sacrifice some open play lanes to get a Learn to Bowl club on or whatever it may be, we're always going to do that because we know that'll pay off for us in the future.
Yeah, a lot of the open play people are really looking at Friday, Saturday primarily. As long as you have those open, you're going to get 80% or more of your open play people anyway. Absolutely. And then it just becomes leagues are during the week and then open play is the weekend.
Absolutely. And you got to make sure that you're communicating that to the community, because people get really frustrated. If they know Monday nights it's just a full house, great. They can plan accordingly. If they know Tuesday is a full house, I think the communication is important. So we always have updated schedule, whether it's on our social media or our website, because that seems to be the most frustrating is when somebody comes in with a family and all the lanes are running. Oh, when are we going to get a lane? Oh, the league just started and they won't finish for another 2.5, 3 hours. That I think as long as they know what they've got and they can plan for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or if you have a gap somewhere during the week, that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. That gives us a little bit about your center and you. Let's talk a little bit today about what's working at your center. We put this together to try to share insights about what's working and share it with different proprietors. What would you say is working for you guys today at your center?
Yeah, sometimes you have to look outside of your bowling center. So when I think of what we have here, we have a 32,000 square foot bowling center with an arcade and a kitchen. And most of us call them party rooms, but these rooms can really be used for anything. Yeah. I have always had the viewpoint that we're here in the community. We have to be really visible in the community And we have to offer ourselves as a community center too, not just a bowling. So what's worked well for us here at this location now and the last few years was always getting involved with community events, whether it was
Okay.
going to the spring fling at the local school
Mhm.
or Autumn Fest downtown or hosting a car show. We've done a couple car shows here
Oh, cool.
in the parking lot with the local police department and fire department. And then we just reached out to a car club in the area and hosted a car show. And some people would say, what does that do for your bowling?
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily do anything immediately for the bowling, but
Right.
it gives you visibility. So people, they see, okay, Buffaloe Lanes, they're involved. They like being active in the community. And they might just show up for a car show and a cup of coffee and then walk into the center and say, we need to have Forrest's birthday here next time.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
So we've always been very involved with what's going on in our local downtown and then just in Mebane as a whole. So I
Okay.
find that really helps. In center, education. So education, again, whether they're going to become a league bowler or whether they're just going to become a casual open bowler or a frequent casual open bowler, I think when you educate people and teach them how to throw a ball better, they enjoy the sport more. And again, the goal doesn't need to be, let's turn them into a league bowler. It could literally be, let's get them a ball in their hand that fits and is the proper weight, so that when they bowl, their hand doesn't hurt afterwards.
Yeah.
I think education is important, whether the end goal is a league bowler or just to get some of those frequent open bowlers a little bit more happy and knocking down more pins. And there's always this, my hand should hurt after I'm done bowling. No, it shouldn't. So we need to find you something that fits better, or maybe you're throwing too light or too heavy. But the education has been helping a lot. And then again, I saw, and look, the guys at BPAA in the education department, they're awesome. We work with them a lot. Bart Berger and Gerald and Kelly and all those guys, they're super cool and they're super on top of what's going on. And I agree that it's not just about customer service anymore. It's about the guest experience.
Yes.
So from when they walk in the door to when they engage with your staff, to when they go on the lanes, to when they exit the building, it's about the experience. And we can nail that in a small center, in a small community, because I know almost everyone by their name. So when they walk in the door, hey, Forrest, how's it going? Should I tell the kitchen to get you a Diet Pepsi? And the usual pair for an hour of bowling. But it's also, when it comes to employee retention, it's the same thing. If the experience in the center is enjoyable, then you will attract good people and you will retain good people.
Absolutely.
So again, it's about that guest experience, and it's multiple things that add up to just one thing. So you can't really, it's about the customer service. It's about the cleanliness of the center. It's about the promotions and the pricing. It's the whole package. And those guys plug at the BPAA education department, they could help you figure it out. But it's no longer about the shirt and the customer service and the my pleasure. It's about the whole experience from when they, really the first touch is probably on social media. So they're going to find you on Google, or they're going to find you on Facebook or Twitter, wherever it may be.
Yep.
And that's really the first touch. And then it goes from there. Then they show up to the center. Is your parking lot clean? Is the front of the building, does it look good, or is there paint peeling off? When you walk in the door, what are you smelling? Old socks, fresh pizza, whatever it may be. Those are all things. They haven't even got to your staff yet. They haven't even got to the front desk yet. And then is it simple? Do they know what's going on? Are there 40 different flyers popping out in your face and you don't know this price, that package, this special, steering people in the right direction? So that guest experience, I think, is really important nowadays, because when the wallets get a little bit tighter too, people want to spend their money where they feel they're getting a lot of bang for their buck, and they want to feel important. They want to feel like they're getting value. And if they're going to come back, that guest experience is a really important part of it.
Absolutely. Now, is that something that you have drawn out or mapped out somewhere, or just something you have in your head, or how do you approach making all those small little improvements all the time?
I think it's just been live and learn over the years. Had a lot of good mentors. The Buffalo brothers always were open to sending us to places where we could get education, whether it was BP or whether it was here or there. I've just had a lot of good managers that I've worked underneath, a lot of good mentors. Erwin Atkinson was the original manager at the first Buffaloe Lanes Center. This is the guy who taught me how to bowl, the one that was running the pro shop, and he runs our pro shop now. So not retired yet, but he's still running the shop here, and I'm happy to have him here. And I wish I could have him for another 30 years. Just gained a lot of experience through him. He's done a lot of different things in the bowling industry. Somebody that I have a lot of respect for too, Paul Crines. He owns and operates a
Okay.
center in
Yeah.
Mooresville, not
We
too
just had
far
him on the
down.
show
I need to
next
work
week.
with him a lot, and we just have very similar mindsets on how to treat customers and how to get people in the door. So it's just something that's evolved and developed over time. When it's something that I try to, you can't really map it, you can't put it in a manual per se. Some of these
Right.
things, I try to lead by example.
I
So
see.
I'm still very active in the center. It's probably why I look so rough. I just finished along, but I like to be out and engaging with the customers. And I feel like I can show the rest of the team that extra level. Sometimes you just have to expose them to that and show them what it looks like. You can train for it. A lot of these on-demand classes that BPAA does, it gives a good benchmark understanding in certain sections, you know, how to answer
Right.
a phone, how to
Yeah, what to
navigate
look
through
for.
customer complaints. Like, I think
Mhm.
that is a phenomenal tool that all proprietors, managers should be using, unless they already in center have some sort of onboarding program. If
Right.
you have an onboarding program, awesome, then it's working for you. But if you don't, it's completely laid out for you already. And like
Yeah.
I said, everything from how you answer the phone to how you handle a customer complaint, CPR, the list of classes that they're offering now is
It's
massive.
out there. Yeah.
I think
Bowling,
education is super
university.
important.
Yep. Yeah, they do a great job of it. The bowling university that you get as just for being a member. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. So
It's great. And I think that was probably what was lacking in the industry before I got into it. I kept hearing about the glory days, the good old days, the third shift leagues and all this stuff. And they were doing market research and analysis, and they were telling proprietors and owners, you need to clean up your centers, less smoking, brighter colors. And then I guess the ones that didn't do it are probably not with us anymore. And the ones that changed and evolved are. But again, the bowling industry is a great industry to be in. And the people that are doing well, they're working hard and they're educating. It's not as easy as just build a center, open it up, and you'll be prosperous. I think you do have to work hard. You have to train and hire the right staff. You have to attract the right people, and you have to offer that guest experience. It has to be the right experience.
And so you're saying it's almost like a philosophy that you try to instill in your staff more than just here's a list of SOPs and how we do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I find that not only are they hardworking, the successful proprietors, but also very open-minded, where they talk to a lot of different proprietors, see what's working, and always putting new ideas into the center so that they don't, because sometimes people fall behind, but the people who do really well, Paul, like I say, we just talked to, he's always evolving and always adding new ideas and what's working today.
Yeah, look, we had an interesting situation when I came here to Mebane. We had bought a business that had 3 different ownerships in 3 years. And so we had to do rebranding. This didn't start as a Buffaloe Lanes here. And it was completely different than what we did. Large bar, more about the open bowling, less about the actual sport. So when we got here, we had 3 years that we had to come and erase, and it was tough. And the center did not do well initially. There were some really rough years, and that's when we would do all this guerrilla marketing, go to every school, every event, and they would look at us and say, you're the same thing with a different name. No, we're not. It's please come and just give us a chance. And so it was tough. And at that time, you have to be open to ideas. So we would have meetings. Majority of my staff over the years, very young. And I'm probably the least arrogant person when it comes to, I think I know everything. So sometimes we would just sit in the room and say, anyone have any good ideas? And it's amazing if you listen to your staff, even the young ones, a lot of these ideas over the years that worked, didn't come from me. It came from my 17-year-old front desk employee. So again, it was like, we've got this huge parking lot. Have you ever thought of doing a 4th of July celebration in a parking lot? No, but that sounds like a great idea. Have we ever done a car show and then maybe involve some people downtown? We have a big parking lot. Sounds great. The party rooms sit empty during the week because you're not doing parties. What if somebody wanted to rent it out for a Bible study or a book reading club or things like that? Utilizing and again, at that point, it was more about just getting people in the door so that they could realize what we were offering was completely different than the previous business. So it was really, our goal at that time was getting people in the door, not necessarily teaching them bowling but yeah, just being open to ideas. And then your customers will, hey, have you ever thought of this? Nope, but we should try it. And the worst that happens is it doesn't work, and then you scratch it off and you move on. you'll never know unless you try. So I think a lot of proprietors, managers, they might be afraid. So it might be one of those things, we always did it this way, but
Right.
always did it this way doesn't, at some point it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
We made a change, made so many changes that when you have an established center that's doing, maybe not thriving, but it's doing okay, you're a little bit more afraid to maybe make a change. Here, really, we were struggling those first couple of years. So it was like, we've got nothing to lose. So it was a little easier to pull the trigger on some of those things. So I understand somebody might be sitting in the center, they're making payroll, they're paying the bills, they're putting some money aside, and they're thinking, I don't know if I want to rock the boat.
Right.
Rock the boat, because really the worst that happens is you try something, it doesn't work, and you move on to something different. And there are no bad ideas.
Show that you're willing to try things. You're trying to make things better, not just the customers and employees.
Yeah, the staff sees that, your customers see that, and then they realize, wait a minute, they're here to stay. They're trying, they're working through things. But yeah, I think you really have to be open-minded. You have to constantly educate yourself. So we go to a lot of these trade shows. We go to Bowl Expo. We have a good regional trade show here, the BPAA of the Carolinas and Georgia. And I try to go as often as I can, because there's always something that you could learn. Also, a lot of times you go to these events, there's so much information being slammed at you, you can't possibly take it all back. So sometimes it's nice going to a show and then saying, wait a minute, I remember learning about this 3 years ago. Why didn't I act on that?
Yeah.
So I think education is important. Keeping an open mind is important. Listening to your staff, because a lot of the time they're seeing things that you might not be seeing. You might be in the office more.
Right.
So they have some phenomenal ideas. Don't write them off because it's their first job and they haven't been in the bowling industry for 20, 40 years. Because they've got some really good ideas. You just got to be able to pull the trigger, follow through, implement, and then be able to measure and say, did it work? Did it not work? It didn't work this time. Let's move on, try something new. Or it might be the next big.
Yeah, there's only one way to find out.
So that's just always, and that's been my thing. That mindset I got from my mom and dad too, and just family members, and then people that have always been around me, is just, don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to try new things. I can actually remember, before I came to Mebane, I had actually gotten to a place at Buffaloe Lanes in Cary where that growth had stopped. I got very comfortable. You've done everything. You're the front desk, the snack bar, the ins and outs of the parties. If there's a squealing coming from lane 13, you know that there's a pin in the turn pan, and you feel like the Fonz after a while. You just you know where to hit things and what to do. But then you get to a point where you get so comfortable, you almost don't realize that you're not growing. So I remember when I left Cary and I came to Mebane, it had been a long time since I was afraid of something.
Yeah.
Because everything was, you get so comfortable and you get so familiar with things, you forget what it's like to learn something new. And that's where I had gotten. I was so comfortable at Cary. And the thought of moving to Mebane, it was different people, different demographic. At our Cary location, everything was Brunswick. Here we're working with cubic AMF. So I don't know anything about these 90 XLIs.
Sure.
I'm pretty good with an A2, but I don't know anything about 90 XLI. And the computer system's completely different. At Cary, we had a snack bar. Here, it's like a full kitchen. So I'm like, wow, now I'm a restaurateur? I don't know about this. So it was it needed to happen. But I think a lot of people, they get comfortable at some point and then they forget that if they're comfortable, they're not growing, they're not evolving, they're not moving forward. So I've had a lot of uncomfortable moments here since 2013. So I guess for me, making change or trying something new, it's gotten a lot easier. And really, when COVID hit, a lot of people were maybe afraid of opening their center or making changes. For me, it was just like, let's get back to work and let's do it. I actually felt like the years leading up to COVID were a lot more challenging. We were closed 6 months, and when we opened, we followed all the guidelines, and it was just another day at work. It was nice being back at work. It was nice seeing people bowling. And we did what we had to until business started picking up. Again, I didn't come into work like this. I came into work thinking, great, now we can get back up and running. And sometimes you need a couple of those rough years that kind of test you a little bit and push you to let you know that it's not afraid. Shouldn't be afraid to make changes, and you shouldn't be afraid to adapt. And sometimes we get so comfortable, we get stagnant, and then eventually things die off.
Yeah, it almost one precludes the other. If you're comfortable, you're probably not learning. And if you're learning, you're probably not comfortable. They're almost mutually exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I really like that. I really like your approach. And it's interesting to see how some people reacted to the harder times with COVID when they were closed. Some people were afraid. Some people took the time to clean up, like literally clean or do renovation,
Yeah.
just things that they needed to do that they just say, we're shut down, let's take care of it now. And then not everyone makes it through. Restaurants close, bars close. There's half the places to go out, and now there's the same people. And now we're seeing the people who made it through to have a really good 18 months since.
Yeah, you actually brought up some good memories. Essentially, we were all laid off at that point, and I was the volunteer caretaker at the bowling center. So I would come in and just make sure everything was still there, and I'd bring the lawnmower from the house and I'd mow the lawn around the property.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
But a couple of my employees reached out to me and they said, "Man, we're so bored. Like, we just want to get out of the house and do something."
Yeah.
So we were talking about cleaning that back room up for a long time. We could clean it up, and we had gallons of paint at the bowling center. I was like, we have a little painting party and freshen up the walls. And so there were a couple days, and we all did this. We're all essentially laid off, unemployed. And I said, look, I'll buy dinner, but I'm unemployed too. It's got to be like Taco Bell or Domino's. So we had Domino's delivered, and we were sitting here painting, cleaning video games, vacuuming out video games, doing all those things. Sometimes you get behind, but it just brought back a good memory because, we did a lot of cleaning in different ways, but we also did some real cleaning. But that was a good memory. Everybody just wanted to get back, and it wasn't about money or anything. It's just like, we want to get back in the center. We want to see the center. Let's do something. And so, we had a couple of those fun days where we brought people in and just had a good time. And there was no bowling, but people asked, "Oh, are you bowling a lot during the pandemic?" And I said, "Nope, lanes are stripped. Lane machine was put up. Everything was pumped out. Oil tank, reservoirs, everything empty." So I said, no bowling. Can't afford the electricity right now.
No, people don't realize how much it is just to turn the lights on or run the machines. Yeah, I love that. I do want to keep us on time. I know I only asked you for a half hour, but what would be, tell me a little bit about your outlook on the next 3 years or so. So looking out to the future, where do you see the bowling industry going in the next three years? Oh
man, if I knew that. I'd tell you to turn the record button off and I'd start selling that information. I think definitely some of it was COVID, some of it was already coming. People are looking to get together, engage with each other, and they're finding different ways of doing that. I love bowling because bowling is something that literally everyone can do. So my appeal to bowling, to the sport, why I love the industry so much, is that it's really something that everybody can do. When you come in on a busy league night, and you look from lane 1 to lane 18 or 16 or 24, 32 or whatever, just people. And there's left, there's right, there's up, there's down, there's black, there's white, there's middle class, there's upper class, there's left-handed, there's right-handed. Bowling is one of those interesting sports that brings everyone together. And sometimes I laugh. We'll have a team bowling another team, and that one team is probably very left-leaning politically, and the other team is very right-leaning politically, and somehow they make it through the night bowling. Nobody's hurt each other. Nobody's hurt, and sometimes they go out to eat afterwards. And I'm thinking, where else can you do that? But I guess I'm going to see, like, personally, I think in our centers, we're going to see an uptick of league bowling. I think people are trying to get into more, like I said, they're trying to socialize more. They were just locked up for a couple of years. And they're trying to find more things.
Sanctioned or non-sanctioned?
Both.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it's USBC, maybe it's the PBA league experience, whatever it may be. But I think just getting people on the lanes is important.
Yeah. Well, just because I see a lot of social lanes or shorter lanes or leagues, shorter leagues, more like a social leagues popping up. I'm just curious if you see just the desire for people to get together, where they just want to go out and bowling's an easy sport that's accessible and they get together, or if it's more the competitive side, which one?
Yeah, probably not the competitive side. I see more the socializing. We're looking probably to adding some duck pin bowling in the center. And it probably won't be a regulation duck pin length. So again, it won't be something that's sanctioned, but if we end up doing leagues or if we end up doing competition with them, we'll do some in-house awards. And make it really exciting. We don't have to sanction with the Duck Pin Association. So we can do that ourselves. But no, probably, I don't know. I see a little bit of the competitiveness dying off, but I also see the excitement coming back with some of the UBA bowling, the Federation bowling. Like it's a different type of bowling. And I think that's good for the sport too, because you need a little bit of that. I remember I did not bowl collegiately, but I did some coaching. So with the NC State bowling team, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like having a team and going to bowling bakers tournaments and things like that. We always told our athletes that were on the college team, like, savor every moment, because when the 4 years are gone, they're gone. And you'll probably find nothing like that in bowling again, because it's just it's a unique experience. And I think Federation and UBA and some of those organizations, it brings that feeling to people that maybe they had experienced it in college, or maybe they never had the opportunity to be a part of a team like that and compete against other teams and travel. So I do some of those formats, but yeah, I see bowling growing more on the social side. And like I said, for me, bowling is about fun now. I don't need to shoot 200s anymore to enjoy it. I just want to get out. I want to meet some people. I want to see some old faces. My team on Wednesday nights, we all used to work at Buffaloe Lanes Carry at some point.
Okay. Wow.
The majority of them are all out of the bowling business. I'm the only one that's still in the bowling industry. And sometimes a story comes up and it says, hey, you remember on a Saturday night after we closed for Cosmic Bowling, we used to go out and do this? And I can still tell them, yeah, I did that last weekend. What are you talking about? Just with a different crew, it's just different times. But sometimes I think they're a little jealous of me. And I said, there's shoe spraying, there's shoe tying too. It's not all fun and games, but we sit down and we bowl. And sometimes it's, remember when we used to do this? I did that last Saturday. We had to Waffle House at 3 in the morning and went back to bowling and shot some pool and played arcades. So I'm a big kid. You have to have fun too.
Absolutely. Like we were saying, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely that social aspect. I think if you can, this year, especially this upcoming year and the end of this year, we're looking to really get involved in the community again. So obviously we were shut down for COVID. When we reopened, it was me and one other person. So we closed pre-COVID with 26 people on staff, I think. And then when we reopened, we had 2. So
wow.
we were mowing the lawn and we were the cleaning crew and we were doing everything. We just couldn't get involved again with a lot of those community activities, and some of them weren't going on either. This year we're going to host another trunk or treat event. It's the biggest trunk or treat event in our area.
Yeah,
so we get local businesses involved. And last time we did it, we had 48 cars in a parking lot.
Yeah.
So that's a huge event, but that's what we're looking forward to, is getting involved again, going to these autumn fests, the hometown holidays, the Christmas markets. Is really just kind of engaging with people again.
You do the Chamber of Commerce and all. That's one that Paul was really big on too. He was talking about.
Paul's also a Rotarian, so I remember.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
I was part of the founding membership for our Rotary Club here in Mebane. When Paul was working with me, he was doing just some
consulting.
Thank you. Yeah. I need another cup of coffee. He was doing consulting with us the first couple years here. And he said, we absolutely need to hit the local Rotary Club. And I said, there is no Rotary Club in Mebane. So he challenged me. So you need to get one started. And we finally got a good group of people together.
Cool.
But yeah, we're involved with Rotary. We're part of the Alamance County Chamber, which we get swallowed up by Burlington and Graham and some of the other cities in Alamance.
I see. Yeah.
So Mebane founded its own organization called the Mebane Business Association. And we have a meeting actually next Wednesday. And we're very active with the MBA. They host one of the longest consecutively running events in North Carolina, which is the Dogwood Festival. We have a historic downtown association as well. So we are in the historic downtown limits of Mebane. We have a historic downtown business association that we're active in. We work with the chamber on certain things, but again, we have an entity that kind of fills the gap of the chamber here.
I see.
So we work with the Mebane Business Association a lot. And I think it's important. It's good for networking. It's nice to know who your neighbor is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the last one I wanted to ask you on, piggyback on that a little bit, is what would be your number one piece of advice for a proprietor? So someone like yourself, or maybe a year ago who was just about to get started, maybe someone who's at a crossroads, has some big decisions, or what would be your number one piece of advice be to them? You could only give one piece of advice for a proprietor.
Only one. Yeah, I guess I would say get ready for the time of your life. There's never a boring day.
Yeah.
I guess I would say don't go into it blindly. So obviously I had a lot of experiences. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. Sometimes I see on these Facebook groups, we just bought a bowling center and we've never owned a bowling center before.
Yeah.
And I think, oh boy, we could probably talk on the phone for the next 4 months consecutively and still not fill the gaps. I would say try to educate yourself as much as possible going into it, because it's like an onion. There are a lot of layers in a bowling center. It's not just as simple as setting the pins up, knocking them down, and it's $350 a game or whatever it might be. There's a lot going on. You really need to know your community. You need to understand the people that are going to be visiting your center. You need to understand the staffing requirements. You need to understand the dynamic of your center. So again, some people have a traditional bowling center. It might just be 24 lanes. Done. We have an 18-lane center with a kitchen, arcade that's relatively large. We're looking to expand it. I think we've got a little over 50 pieces right now. Some billiards tables, but it doesn't really fit with what we do. So again, I think we're looking to get some duck pin bowling in. You need to understand your center too and what you can do with it. But yeah, that would be my one piece of advice is just don't, oh, this is great, let's own a bowling center, and you really need to understand the layers and what goes into it. Maybe educate yourself a little bit beforehand. And then definitely once you're up and running, continue with that education. Don't lock yourself in your office or get stuck working the counter where you can't grow. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite. I even have a sign hanging up: don't get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. You've got to pull yourself away from the day-to-day parts of it so that you can help expand the business and expand yourself. Some people, they get locked into working the counter. I can't possibly go to Bowl Expo. Who's going to run the bowling center for me? There's already a problem if you can't. So there's already an issue that maybe had you done a little bit more research. And so I would say education is key before and then during, and then once you're into it, just constantly, if you can make good connections with other proprietors and managers, if they're sharing information from you, they know what they're doing. If they're not sharing, then nobody's really competing with each other. We're all here to grow the sport of bowling. You sent me an email asking me to come on the podcast. You said sharing is caring, and I totally agree. I just think the more we can help each other out, the more we can help people, the more we can help the sport of bowling, and the better off we all are. So just education is key, whether it's your staff, whether it's yourself, whether it's your customers. Education is one of the top things. When we're making decisions here in a bowling center, we're thinking about education, right? How do we build up our employees? How do I improve myself? But then we want to educate our customers too. If you educate the customers about bowling and the sport, it's a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if I could have put it better myself. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Like I said, education is really critical.
It's important.
It's the only way.
Yeah, it's important. And again, we can learn so much from each other. People are doing such different things from West Coast to East Coast, and it's something works here, but it's never been done here. And certainly there are certain things that maybe will only work regionally in certain areas, but pull yourself outside of your scope of knowledge. So you might know what the 8 centers around you are doing, but what are the other 8 doing in the next state or on the other side of the country? There's just a wealth of information there. And again, that's why I like what Bart Berger and Gerald and Kelly and them are doing. They're collecting that information. They're disseminating that information. You don't have to drive to California or to Seattle or wherever to sit down and talk to a proprietor. You can do a Zoom call, and there are so many people out there willing to share their knowledge and expertise and help people out. You just have to know where to get it. You just have to reach out and be willing and open to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. If that weren't the case, this show wouldn't exist. That's the whole idea, is let's reach out to people, because we have the BPAA in their university. We have the Bowl Expo, but in between that, there's not as many spots to talk to some of these people who are busy. They're more than happy to share if you ask them, but how do we take that from them and share it out with the world? That's why we're here today. I don't think we could end on a better one. That's the mission of it. I do really appreciate you taking out your time, Bryan. This has been a blast. You have a lot of knowledge. Like you said, 25-year career and just barely touching 40.
Yeah, we're just barely touching the surface. I enjoyed it. Thank you for asking me to come on. And again, I think if people if they open their eyes a little bit, if they get out of their comfort zone, they're going to be a big success in this industry. They just got to be willing to take that little bit of a step.
Yep, that's the whole thing. Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you, Bryan. Well, I'm sure we'll chat again, but like I said, I appreciate it, and this has been fun.
Thanks, Forrest. I appreciate it, and thank you for everything you do for our industry too.
Absolutely.
We'll see you.